Well, kind of working my way through the table. I don't know a thing about axes. Not a thing. You know? But I do know something about chainsaws. So, probably ought to stick to working on saws. And what I wanted to do is see if I can come up with a straight handle for this thing right here. Right here, I found this upstate. It had been sitting around for a very, very, very long time. And I kind of like the shape of this axe head. So what I want to do is see if I can clean it up and well, put another handle on it. I'll start by putting another handle on it. Maybe throw this in the truck for splitting wood. So I bought this right here. It's a little bit longer. I want to see if I can blend these two. What I'd like to be able to do, if I could, I'm not sure I can, is push out the wedge and then drive the axe handle out and then maybe use it on the other one. Alright, that worked. I was able to drill enough for the wedge out. So let's put the other handle on. Look at that. Then maybe I'll cut it right here. Make this a short axe. Then I'll grind it and put an edge on it and see if I can make it stick. I don't know a thing about this stuff. So this is me just fuddling through, trying to make it work. Alright, I'm going to chop the handle. I mean, actually, that probably worked just the way it is, but I'm going to cut the handle right about in here, I think. Just wanted to make it a heavy wedge driver is what I'm looking for. In the mix, these three saws will keep me busy for a little bit, but I have that 555 I've got to do the mods on. That's really what I'm supposed to be doing. I just don't feel like it right now. So let me start out with this one. Now it's raining again. So I went on Facebook Marketplace and found from another saw enthusiast a little Husqvarna. And it's a 154, which is a complement to my 254. And he's done a pretty nice job of bringing it around. It runs pretty good. It needs a fuel line because it's leaking. But the other thing it needs is a oil pump. And I've got one from an earlier version 254, but this one is driven by the clutch. I believe this one right here is driven by the crankshaft. We'll see. First thing I got to do is get this clutch thing off of here. So let me see if I can make that happen. First, when I got this, I was expecting, you know, something a little bit in rougher cosmetic shape. It's actually pretty good. The only thing cosmetically wrong is that right there. But for the age of this saw, this is really not bad. But it's a great place to start if you like taking old saws and bringing them back to life. And yeah, I'm being distracted. I've got two of them in process. One of them is this Model 61 right here. Now I put a fuel line in it so far, but I'm waiting for a carb kit. It's got this goofy Walbro I've never seen before. So I went and ordered a carb kit for that particular brand that particular model of Walbro. And when it gets here, I'll get the 61 going. Well, I made a clutch tool years ago. Basically, I just took a socket and ground it like that so it can span this center section right here. Like that. And it's worked for a long time. Worked again. So let's see what we have in here. Here's a clutch drum. Okay. Has a spacer right here. Goes in between it and the clutch itself. Has a needle bearing. Well, I'm going to replace that. Now the thing about these collector saws like this is not a saw that you would buy and expect to go to work with, is parts are virtually unavailable. And when you get something like this and you run into an issue like not having an oil pump that works, you cannot be upset with the guy. Not for the price, number one, but also any saw of this age, anything like this is going to have issues. It's just a matter, you buy a saw like this with the intent to build it into a working, fun saw, not a production saw. So yeah, I think I got a great deal because of the cosmetics. I really don't care about the mechanics. And it's a big bonus because it even runs. So I probably don't have to do anything on the top end. Maybe a carb kit is all it might need. It looks like it's been worked on. It's in reasonably nice looking shape. And we will see if I can get this out of here. Alright, I have this little puller I made to pull this pump off. And the little brass gear is on. It looks fine. Seal looks fine. So it must be something with the pump itself. Let's just see. We can see something going on with the pump. Be right back. I'm going to blow out the passage up to there. I'm going to blow out this with air. Well, I'm not sure how that's ever going to pick up any oil. That filter is like beyond plugged. So I think that's probably what's wrong with that pump. I'm going to give it a shot. See if I can just change that filter out or clean it up or something. Well, I honestly don't know how that filter ever flowed anything, period. So I'm going to stick one on from a 372 and just see if it'll fit in there and see if we have an oiling saw. Wouldn't that be cool? Just be that simple. See if I can figure out how to get this back together. There's a little grommet right here. That goes right there. And I think what I'm going to do is sit it on this side first. Make sure it gets in there. And do like this. Get those 3 screws in there. Light it right off just the way it is without even putting the clutch on there. See if I can get it to oil. And if it oils, then we can put the clutch right back together. It's kind of a blessing and a curse to the crank driven oil pumps, and that is they always pump when the engine's running, so it'll sit there and put a pool right underneath the saw. It was a bit of a technology advance when they converted them to these. See that right there? That's like a worm gear driven by the clutch drum. So basically we'd have to engage the clutch drum in order to start pumping the oil. So while these are pumping all the time, the newer version driven by the clutch drum would only oil when the chain was moving, and that was an advance. Kind of clever. I honestly don't know who did that first, Steel or Husky, but one of them did. Dolmar maybe, John Strait, I don't know. So let's see if we have a bar oiling saw, because if we do, then I can go right to the carburetor. Alright, see if it'll start. We now have an oiling saw. So basically all that was the oil filter itself needed to get cleaned. So I didn't have to go do surgery on another saw and steal a pump. This one works just fine. So, I don't know if you paid any attention to my last video about throttle response. Pretty snappy, huh? When it doesn't have a clutch. So basically all that was wrong with this one right here was that, and I don't see how that ever flowed anything. It's so full of goo. So this can go right back to the junk pile. This is a 254 bottom end. I don't know how good it is. Looks like it's pretty good actually, but probably needs to get cleaned up. This goes in next. It's a little bit of an interference fitting there. So this goes into the category of clutter. I've got this old speed cut bar. That's 3/8. So I'd have to go to a 3/8 sprocket with this one. And I've got chain for it. But this usually rides on one of my little small mount modern saws. I've got a lot of wear out of this bar. This bar is a great bar, by the way. I've got, this is the bar that came with that little 154. It's a Windsor, you know. It looks like a solid bar. It doesn't have rivet holes in it, or rivet. If you look real carefully on this one right there, you'll see like these depressed little circles. That's because this is a laminate spot welded. And this Windsor is probably a milled bar, which would be a higher quality bar. So kind of going back to the hobby roots a little bit, and with these old saws, like these old Husqvarnas, sometimes the dealer doesn't have the parts you need, so you got to sort of factor that into the equation. Fortunately for me, the thing I had thought was not going to work, the oil pump. In fact, all it needed was just simply a new filter, and it pumps pretty good now. Now, bar and chain combos, that's a place where you can argue. Husqvarna sells this, and it's a reduced weight. I gotta wonder whether or not it's very much like my favorite Oregon Versacuts and speed cut type things, where it's a laminate with aluminum on the inside, because Husky and Oregon kind of went around in circles on that. This cost me, I don't know, $40-something the bar alone at Lowe's, and the chain is like $30-something to put on top of this. So you're looking at $70 or $80 just to get this thing on the saw. And I'll probably do it because it's got the right label, and I really don't care. Went down to Tractor Supply and got some of the low-cost, cheap aftermarket stuff for $35, including tax. You know, and the chain they have on these, there's been improvements, I can tell you that, because a few years back I looked at this stuff and it was just worthless. There was nothing you could really do with it. And it turns out the chain that was actually on the saw was one of these. The reason I know is because it has the same gold every other tooth in the same 28 on there. So this is just a new version of what was on this saw before. And this is a solid Windsor bar. I think it's pretty high quality. Right here is a low-cost laminate. The way you can tell is because of the spot welds. And this is a more expensive laminate because it has that name on it. But it also has some kind of either pins or welds, I'm not sure which. And the difference between this brand right here, Husqvarna's laminate, and I believe that is aluminum on the inside, I don't know for sure. I'll research that. And the Oregon for sure is just simply glued, and it works, all right? I've used them for a long time. And these may work too, I just never used them before because I always thought they were a little bit on the pricey side for what they are. So I just never got into them. And the reason why I'm going to try these two is just simply because I haven't used them before. I need to get some time on them. And I want to see, you know, years later whether or not this low-cost stuff will do in a pinch. You know, if you got an old saw, you just want to go out and cut some wood, not worried about the speed as much as you are some firewood and getting a job done for a day. Is this stuff suitable? I mean, does it make a chip? I don't know. We're going to find out. I'm going to try this stuff. What I can tell you is the steel laminate bar, this bar right here, is noticeably heavier than the Husqvarna alternative. So what you're buying with this extra, well, almost twice the price, if you include the bar and the chain, is less weight. Are you going to get more durability? I don't know. Argue that until the cows come home, I guess. But we're going to give it a shot and see whether or not it oils properly, and see if we can actually cut some wood with this low-cost stuff first. And then just out of pride, I'll go upscale with the Husqvarna stuff, and the Husqvarna X cut chain. So. Alright, I don't know how this is going to work, but it's raining out. I need to get just a little bit of firewood, so I'm leaving the camera in the car, through the window, and let me get a little bit of firewood and throw it in the back of the truck with the 154. not have been able to hear that, but it's got a little fuel starvation going on. Probably pulse or maybe fuel line, but it's one snotty little saw is what it is. These bars I've had now for a couple of years, these Versi-Cuts, you know, they're beginning to show their age, but one thing I can tell you is they wear really well. And this one is no different than the rest of them I've had, in that even though it has a fair amount of time on it, there's really no burr that I can see, and the tip hasn't blown up on me. You know, I'll say it again, but the Pro doesn't like it because you can't replace the tip, right? No tip. But these damn things are light, and they're a little more stiff than the other lightweight bars that have cutouts, and they wear good. I think these are about the best bang for buck in the market. You know, for the cost of doing another tip or something like that on some of the other bars, I just get another bar. These things are awesome. Now the Husqvarna, they've come up with a bar similar. I don't know if it's the same or not. I cleaned up this one a little bit. Well, I had to try it. So I started working on that ash. I'll just set the camera, maybe I can get some more in there. Damn, this thing works good. I hope I'm getting that on video. And it's not moving. I better put a little different edge on it. Put it, just busting this ash up pretty quickly.